Before he died, my dad was a drunken old man living in isolation. Now when I say drunken, example, every morning for breakfast he would have brandy and oatmeal. Not brandy and the oatmeal, but brandy in the oatmeal. And he was living in isolation because I was the only relative on the West Coast. It was an hour commute each way to see him, and he did not make visiting pleasant. Because a second after you stepped in the door and said hello, he would launch into one of his crackpot political theories, which included being a Holocaust denier. Now, I rack my brain how that happened, but I cannot think of anything worse than being a Holocaust denier. I mean, what is worse? Pedophile? I'm not so sure, because at least with a pedophile you can go, you need counseling and treatment and stay away from schools and playgrounds. What do you tell a Holocaust denier? You need to look at the facts. You mean the Jewish-controlled media's facts? Ah, it was painful. So I rarely did it. But after he died, I had to start going cleaning out his house. And that's when I discovered there was a whole other world going on out there. Started with the next door neighbor telling me, you know, it used to get pretty busy around your dad's house after 7 o'clock at night. Then as I was cleaning out room by room, I found things. In the kitchen, I opened the refrigerator. It is full of spray cans of whipped cream. I don't recall my dad ever making sundaes. In his office, there were stacks of canceled checks made out to people with names like Tiffany, Amber, Misty, and on the memo line of every one of those checks, house cleaning. His house was a mess. But I'm guessing if your occupational name is Misty, refund's not included. Then I went in the bedroom. Opened up the bedside table drawer, I looked down and, oh, that's an unusual looking flashlight. Pull it out. This is no flashlight. This is a vibrator. Now this may come as a surprise to some of you, but I've never personally handled or operated a vibrator. I have never been present when one has been in use. So I was a little curious, you know, how exactly do these things work? And, oh, there's a switch, I clicked it on, nothing happened. Well, you know, batteries must be dead. And then it started to move. And I reacted like an 8-year-old girl who just walked into a spider's web, and I went, eek! Now the next thing I did was I thought to myself, wait till I tell my older sister, the Christian, about this. See, I'm a little brother, and it's always been my role to be an annoyance and an irritant. So when she came out from back east a few months later and I was telling her everything that had transpired, I said, and then I was cleaning out Dad's bedroom and I found a vibrator. No reaction from my sister. And I picked it up and I'd never handled a vibrator before. Still no reaction from my sister. Then she says to me, I've handled a vibrator. Got reaction from me. But the thing I didn't tell you about my sister is she's a doctor. And a long time ago, she was a student doctor in a hospital in Grand Forks. And a guy came in an emergency and said to the nurse, I need to speak with a doctor. What seems to be the trouble? I just need to speak to a doctor. And my sister was the only doctor on duty. So she goes in the examining room, pulls the curtain. What seems to be the trouble? And the man explained to her he had a vibrator stuck inside him. In fact, that vibrator was so far inside him, it was a continent across from that place where the sun don't shine. But she figured, you know, it's just like unscrewing a light bulb, so she got up there and slowly worked its way out. Now, here's the thing. My sister, when she started medicine, there were not a lot of women doctors. And the male doctors were pretty dismissive of them. You know, they were like, nursing, that's women's work. But doctoring, the real medicine, that's for men. And in that hospital in Grand Forks, there was one doctor in particular, a guy in the pathology department, who was very dismissive of my sister's talents. So right after she got that vibrator from inside of that man, she slapped a note on it that said, "Object of unknown origin, please examine and identify," and sent it down to the guy in pathology so he'd have to touch it, making the final score of this story, ladies 1, male chauvinist 0. Good night.